La gioielleria.
Jewellery. Jewellery is much more than just an accessory. It is a mirror of humanity, determined by time, reflecting the complexity of our identity, aspirations, and the world we live in. From the dawn of civilization to digital revolutions, adornment has always been a silent witness of the continuous evolution of the personal expression and cultural dialogue. Today we're starting an extraordinary exploration to see how climate change, geopolitical changes, social transformations have left signs on the way how we express ourselves. It is not just a journey through history, but it is a decodification of phenomena from the ancient metropolitan tribes. Adornment has adapted, reacting to the force of innovation, technological revolution, that have transformed our lifestyle, products, culture. Design reflects social change. It is a visual map of cultural osmosis, transcending geography and time, merging the past with the present, emotions with practicality. And now, in the digital age, also communication has been redefined. Of course, the dynamics through which we share, we exchange, we connect has changed forever, especially in jewelry. In the age of experience consumerism, empathy and emotions have become the main drives, producing a market in which stories are just as important as a gemstone, a glittering gemstone. What has the future in store for us, knowing that it will always reflect the present like a mirror? Well, allow us to take you through an extraordinary journey across time, cultures, innovations, to discover the anthropology of the body and the ornament. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Portraits, the Anthropology of Body and Adornment. Chapter 1, History. Throughout history, jewels have gone beyond their role as simple adornment. Silent witnesses of our evolution, a language, the narration of stories that tell who we are, where we come from, what we would like to become. Our story starts in tribal societies, where jewels became the primary expression of identity. Bones, stones, shells. These were not just a decoration, they symbolized power, spirituality, connection with nature. Through the continents, adornment has become a non-verbal language of human experience. A tradition. Yes. A tradition that is evolving relentlessly. Well, it is a pleasure for me to introduce and welcome here Amanda Triossi, jewelry historian and expert.
And have the opportunity to speak about jewelry and men, a subject that is often overlooked. And so for this reason, I would like to illustrate the types of jewels worn by men over the last 6 centuries. It's going to be a bit of a rush, but I will try my best. So jewels from the 1400s until nowadays. So let's begin with the 1400s, at a time when men appear to be wearing quite a number of jewels. So let's see what types of jewels they're wearing. Men's wore rings on most fingers, but also neck chains, mainly one chain with a large pendant set with an important gemstone, as you can see here. What is interesting is at this time, jewelry was worn as ornament, but also as an expression of wealth, status, and also allegiance. It shows, for example, I don't know if you can see the image here, this large pendant, it's set with diamonds and pearls, and it's in the shape of a cross. Clearly, this is allegiance to the Christian faith. Now, when one moves on in time, always in the Renaissance, in the higher Renaissance, jewels for men seems to become even more extreme. For example, the neck chain is no longer singular, but worn in multiples, as you can see in these 2 portraits. In addition, besides neck chains, rings, you find hat jewels. And this is a great innovation of the time and becomes the hat jewel, or the enseigne, becomes the ultimate fashionable luxury accessory for men. How was the enseigne designed? It was usually a circular medallion secured to the rim of the hat. And you can see by this example, the very rare surviving example, that it has loops by means of which you could stitch it to the rim of the hat. This particular example, if we look closely, depicts the conversion of St. Paul on the road to Damascus. It's the story whereby the Roman soldier, struck by the vision of God, falls off his horse. I don't know if you can make it out, but it's beautifully rendered in gold, enamel, and diamonds. Typically of the enseignes, also they have an inscription around the side which relates in some way to the wearer. Once again, this illustrates that this jewel is ornament, status, and also allegiance, in the case as it's a religious motif. Another interesting type of jewel during always the Renaissance is the aiglette. One could say it's a bit of a gender fluid jewel, because it's worn both by men and by women. Aiglettes are these little tags that you can see here, worn both by the man and the woman. They're precious metal tags that was used to fasten and to secure, but also to make sure that the laces by means of which you were fastening didn't fray. And these are called aiglettes. So this is just to show you very quickly what were the fashionable types in the Renaissance. Moving on in time, let's see what happens in the 1600s, 17th century. Well, neck chains, rings continue, but there is a transformation. The circular enseigne is replaced by the aigrette. What is the aigrette? The aigrette is a feather-like jewel worn on the hat. It is either an actual feather with a jeweled element or a jewel that simulates a feather, like the extant example with rubies, emeralds, and diamonds. Why? Question always is interesting is to understand why has it come into being. Well, the aigrette was introduced because there was a change of fashion in the shape of the hat. Do you notice the hat here in the background? You can see here, it's a tall hat, no longer the flat, soft hat. And so having a cylindrical hat, you had to decorate it with a much taller, prominent jewel, hence the aigrette. Neck chains, neck ornaments continue to be worn in the 1600s, and sometimes ropes of pearls, and also chains. They tend to be longer, as the two examples that I'm showing you here. What is interesting is that these are two self-portraits by the most famous painters of the time, Anthony van Dyck, here, and Rembrandt over here. And so it just shows you how fashionable they were, because if two of the most important painters depict themselves with long chains, it gives you an idea that these long chains were extremely popular. Moving on quickly in time, let's see what happens in the 1700s. Well, the 1700s is a period of boom in diamond set jewellery. Why? Because diamonds were new diamonds mines were discovered in Brazil in around the 1720s. So both men and women wore a great abundance of diamond set ornaments if they could afford to. What are the types of jewels worn by men? Well, there's a radical change in the 1700s. From decorative to more functional type of jewels. And for example, buckles used for the shoes and for the breeches here on the side were extremely popular for men, as well as buttons used to secure the waistcoat or the coat. These would have been set in diamonds for those who could afford it, whilst for those who couldn't afford it, there were many versions of simulants. For example, colorless topaz, colorless corundum, or even paste. What is interesting, however, is to understand why there is this change from decorative jewels worn in the past centuries to more functional jewels worn in the 1700s. And the reason is the age of enlightenment. The 18th century, whereby the principles of the Enlightenment called for reason, simplicity, and practicality. Hence, these principles deeply influenced the style of the day and set the tone really for the subsequent centuries, the 19th and the 20th century, where simplicity and minimalism in menswear is really what counts. This was advocated largely by the fashion influencer of the time, Beau Brummel, that you see here. Now, Beau Brummel advocated for men to wear muted colors, tailored suits, devoid of any superfluous adornment. And this really became the norm and has remained so for the past 2 centuries, whereby men have only been able to wear functional items of adornment, cufflinks, dress buttons, the occasional ring, and timepiece. But things seem to be changing. So the question is, are men embracing jewellery again? And I think you will all agree that from what we see, it is definitely the case. Men are wearing necklaces, bracelets, rings that we haven't seen in the previous centuries, both for casual wear, but also in formal settings, for example, with the tuxedo or the black tie. As you can see, these are images of the Met Gala 2024, where these artists are all wearing important diamond set jewels. Now, the question is, why is this happening? Well, I think it is largely due to the breaking of the norms of the gender norms. So the breaking of gender norms are enabling or enabling us to view masculinity in a different way. And so men are finally able to express themselves in ways that hadn't been possible until very recently. And so jewelry worn by men is now become ornament and self-expression more than in the past status and alliance. And this is also a great opportunity for the jewelry industry that sees jewelry worn by men as a new untapped market. So it's not surprising that a lot of jewelry brands are creating jewels specifically for men. As you can see here is Chaumet, Dolce & Gabbana and Tiffany. And also we seem to be very much not bombarded, but there's a lot of imagery that illustrates how jewelry can be worn by men, in a way encouraging men to adopt this new style. Now, what I think is also an interesting thought, in the animal world, the male is by far the most colorful, and the same is in tribal society. And so it is not surprising in a way, men, by being more flamboyant, are just being, in a way, more naturally masculine. And so with this, I come to an end, and maybe we've come full circle, and we are at the dawn of a new renaissance for male jewelry. Thank you very much.
Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for recalling us about past history. Wonderful. History is a true wonder, isn't it? Well, let's now move on chapter 2. Chapter 2 deals with technology, and technology meets with craftsmanship. Very well. From metals that were shaped through the fire to 3D precision cutting, and we see innovation. Innovation has always been the throbbing heart of a creation in the world of jewelry. Very much so. Now, combining the old with the new and the futuristic, what do? We overcome limits, making sure that jewels stay on as signs of ingenuity and creativity of mankind. Well, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Damiano Zito, an entrepreneur and an engineer. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about the revolutionizing jewelry through the additive manufacturing technology. The first question is how these pieces of jewelry are made. Generally, the jewelry makers are a little bit reluctant to show up how they produce a piece of jewelry. The main reason is that there is a common opinion that there is much more art than innovation when we see the beautiness of a piece of jewelry. And what I used to love to think about or to consider if art can be put together to the engineering. But I'm thinking that if two famous people of our past, like Leonardo da Vinci or Galileo Galilei, they were able to see a takeoff of a Boeing 747, they will be as amazed as we are when we stand in front of Mona Lisa at the Louvre Museum. So since art is emotion, why technology cannot be emotion? It depends. So whenever something done by humanity is bringing emotion, I do believe that in this way we can consider that art and engineering is something that is very similar. Let's start from some fun facts. 85% of global jewelry production is made with a process called lost wax casting that consists in pouring molten gold or silver into a mold. The main reason why it's very common is because it's very affordable, the time to product is very short, and somehow even very small factories or artisanal labs are able to have those equipments. The remaining 15 to 20% of jewelry are produced using a process called plastic deformation processes, which are rolling, milling, stamping, tubing, and so on, taking advantage from the metal plasticity. But there is something that, to introduce the concept of additive manufacturing, I want to address to a very tricky question. Should object be lightweight or the right weight? Generally, in jewelry, we have two situations. The first one, having one volume, so I like that piece of jewelry, I want to produce that piece of jewelry, and I can do solid and heavy or hollow but too much light, super light. There is nothing in between. It's possible to do in between, but it is taking much more efforts and production phases. But additive manufacturing technology that we can also call 3D printing, this is a very common way to think, very general, is able to address very well this concept. There are in jewelry three main technologies that are used to produce jewelry. Of course, at the moment still for some niche and specific segments, but I'm talking about 3D printing directly on precious metals. I'm not talking about 3D printing on waxes, resin, or other material. The first one is called powder bed fusion, where a laser is melting some powder bed on a building platform. The second technology is called binder jetting, a bit different, that is using a polymer to keep in place, again, a powder made by precious metal. And the third one that is super innovative is called nanoparticle jetting. This nanoparticle jetting is different from the other two because the particle size of the gold alloy are nanometrical in size. All these three technologies are so-called layer by layer technologies because they produce the parts one layer after another layer, and so on till the end of the process. Here we have a picture of something that is quite important in jewelry. So how aesthetically a piece it appears and how much is the resolution of the jewelry part. On your left side, you have the lost wax casting, so the state of the art, and then all the other technology. You see that the two in the center, powder bed fusion and binder jetting, are not that beautiful like lost wax casting. But when we go to the nanoparticle jetting, then the resolution is back to the one that we are familiar to have today, with one more thing, freedom. So additive manufacturing is adding the possibility for the designer to have no limitation and constriction in limiting their creativity because the production techniques are not able to make their idea become a piece of jewelry. Another important thing to introduce the next point is when you produce a ring with a lost wax casting process, you have 9 production phases. And this is involved with energy, and the energy means environmental impact. When you go to powder bed fusion, that is the first of the 3 technologies I was talking about, only 2 phases, from the 3D file to the printed parts. So then the piece of jewelry is ready to go to the goldsmith bench. Nanoparticle jetting and binder jetting need another 2 phases, so in total 4 versus 9. And this has a logic impact, which means the amount of equivalent carbon footprint, carbon CO2, produced by single technology to make a single piece of jewelry, like a ring. Here we have the example that lost wax casting You have to consider when you make a ring, you produce 1 kilo of CO2. When you go for binder jetting or nanoparticle, that is the one technology having 4 phases, you produce 500 grams. And then when you go down to powder bed fusion, only 2 phases, 200 grams. And the impact, the lower impact is very logic, because the less the number of phases that you need to make something, and the less is the amount of energy that is involved. Let's go to the technical impact, which is the one that is the most interesting for designer. First, freedom on the final weight of the jewelry without changing the apparent volume. So the volume is that one. The weight of a piece of jewelry can go down 80% and has no impact in how the jewel appear. This is something that is very nice, because it's possible to tuning the weight to meet marketing positioning as well wearability. Second point, avoiding the unaesthetic cavity that are in the back of jewelry. And it's possible to hide all those cavities and not showing up something that looks quite cheap. Third, the possibility to develop digital alloys, which will have an impact on wear resistance, scratch resistance, and why not, some color, because digital alloys means we are able to put powder together of different metals or of different materials that was not possible with traditional processes. And the last one, the time to product. Today, with a powder bed fusion technology, 2 hours, you have a piece of ring ready to show up to the management team in the company. Let's have a final zoom on nanoparticle jetting, because it's the most disruptive that we have today in the jewelry industry. The resolution is unparalleled in compared to whatever other technology. And the main reason is because using nanoparticles, the layer thickness is something like 10 times thinner. And if you see the picture, this is something that was unachievable when we were talking about powder bed fusion or binder jetting. But the final question, the one that is the most interesting one, we had during the 80s the inkjet printer that were printing black ink on a white piece of paper. Then a few years after, the same printer were having a different color, and we were able to print pictures. Will be possible to put together ink of a different material, yellow gold, rose gold, white gold, and being able to print patterns that make the mass customization process, the mass customization phenomena happening, technically speaking and theoretically speaking, will be possible. The only thing that we have to expect is that if a technology like additive manufacturing will be really part of our everyday life, it will give one of very big advantage. The size of the border of the technology will be exactly the same like the size of the creativity border. Thank you very much.
Bene. Capitolo 3.
Chapter 3. Design. Design is a dialogue between cultures. Design is a place where tradition meets a vision. It is an exchange, a dialogue between cultures, a celebration of diversity. Every piece inspired by ancient civilizations or contemporary minimalism contain a message, always and forever. It is a bridge between the past and the future. Well, I have the honor to introduce Richard Wu, jewelry designer. You have the floor. Mr. Wu, thank you and welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Richard Wu. I'm a multifaceted artist in jewelry design. I'm also a stone setter, engraver, and a jade carver. Today, my presentation is called Cultural Osmosis. This is a brief of some of the works I have done. And I start with my self-discovery when my family moved to United States when I was in youth. And after my family fell apart, I came back to China. And similar to my generation in a rapidly developing 30 years of China, our generation faced like multi-diversity in the educational and lifestyle. So that brings me the question of who am I really? This is a picture of me working in my workshop. Right now it's in Shenzhen, China. It's a city cross-border of Hong Kong. And I found my brand in 2005, and I learned jade carving in 2012. And after 2-3 years of jade carving, I went to Milan, Italy to study the process of jewelry making. And my brand is about using the technology I learned from the West, also from the jade carving, and combined with the Eastern culture. The importance of Chinese heritage. This is a photo of the traditional Chinese sculptures and some of the buildings. And in the middle, it's a pig I carved on jade. It's also one of the 12 Chinese zodiacs. These are the picture of some jade I carved. And I was very fascinated by the traditional Chinese sculptures when I come back from the US. And it's very different from a replicate of the natural itself. It has many characters such as the dragons, the phoenix, and some of the patterns that represent good luck and fortune. I wonder how was that culture formed? So when I dive deeply, I found out it's a mix of religion and philosophy, such as Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucius. These are some of the pieces I carved. On the left, it's old jade carved in the Zhou dynasty 1,000 years ago. And from the right is the two pieces I carved. One is a dragon and a phoenix. And in the down is a blossom flower. But after 2-3 years of jade carving, I got bored out a little bit because it does not link to my present life, and I cannot express my inner feelings through the jade carving process. So I went on to try to use jewelry as an expression. And this is a bangle I made 2-3 years ago. It's called the Vein of Love. It's a combination of two plants putting together. One is called a vein of love. One is a fern from locally from the southeast China. And the reason why I do it is because the nature is not what we see as always we thought. As you can see, some fungus, they can control the ants, and some plants, they nurture from insects to grow. So I put these two plants together to remind us, like, sometimes if we think differently, and if we think on the other side of perspectives, and maybe the answer can be totally different. These are some of the works I have been done in the past recent years. I try technically, try use titanium, different materials, and different technologies like stone settings and different ways of wearing jewelry. This is an earring called a Nirvana earring. It was made during the pandemic era. What I call it Nirvana earrings is because I was deeply influenced by the wabi-sabi philosophy and also the philosophy from Taoism. As you can see, the caterpillar, when they turn into a cocoon and then turns into a butterfly, is a total transformation. All of its organs melted into water and transformed totally into something else. In the pandemic era, I felt I was kept inside and locked. But I think that's not the end, but it maybe is a different start. Just like Nirvana, it's between the life and the death. This is the Chinese ancient art. Yeah, this is probably right now the most renowned piece I've made today. It's called the Black Veil. It's used the pattern from withered maple leaves. And I was fascinated in the Chinese ink painting, as you can see on the left. It's an ink painting from the Song Dynasty. As you can see, I'm not interested in the techniques of the artist, but the proportion. As you can see, the water is not there, but you feel it. The mountain, though, is not granted in size, but you can see through. And this technology is called the Liu Bai, which is called, in English, is called the negative space. I was deeply inspired by it, and I created this mask using withered leaves to the same philosophy as think about life and death, existence and disappearance, soul and the body. And the mask is the perfect vessel to give you this kind of illusion, similar to the water is not there, but you see it from the painting. And this is a ring I created, it's called the cloud ring. I was deeply fascinated by the ancient craftsmanships. As you can see, in the past 2,000 years, and sometimes even more, people started using bronze to make crafts and use agates to carve. And after the technology evolved, they use silver and gold. And in the modern days, we use even titanium and man-made crystals. So I was curious, maybe I can make something to combine all this material together and link them through gold. So I made this ring using bronze, silver, agate, and sapphire. If you look to a longer time distance, because of the different materials, the oxidation might be different. So after maybe hundreds of years passed, and the piece is not the exact same as it was made in the present day, but with the oxidation, it gives the piece of time, feeling of time also. Inspired from the Chinese traditional craftsmanship, when I learned jewelry making in Italy, I found out metal making is a lot different from jade carving, because in jade, all you can do is carve. But in metal, you can melt, you can solder, and you can bend, and you can forcing it. But metal has always given the feeling of hardness and coldness. So I was thinking maybe we can give the metal something else. So I look into the traditional craftsmanship and use the bamboo weaving and made a collection called the Wave collection. It's in the middle is the Wave Volume 1. It's made from titanium and white gold and 9-karat yellow gold. It's still flexible, and it is the combination using the weaving technology. And this is the Wave Volume 2 I made just this year. By using aluminum, titanium, and gold together, it gives the similar feel of bamboo weaving, but different from bamboo, it does not oxidize, it's not afraid of humid, it's not afraid of the insects biting, so it can live in a longer time. Both the two objects I made, along with other objects I made, it's the root of me learning the Chinese culture And I've learned mostly from the Zen philosophy, which is live the moment and make it into eternal. Or put it the simpler ways, if we can't live longer, then live deeper. Thank you for allowing me to give the presentation, and I hope, inspired from my works, we can see the world a little differently. Thank you.
Grazie. Thank you very much. Grazie mille. Thank you.
Well, let's now move on chapter 4. In chapter 4, we hear some kind of communication statement. Jewel as an element of storytelling. We know full well that jewels are not just but objects. Jewels. Jewels indeed are synonymous with storytelling. Over centuries, jewelry has told the story of allegiance, love, status, religion, and jewelry has also referred to dreams. In the digital era we experience nowadays, the power of communication has expanded, so much so that these stories are perceived in the remotest corners of the world. And this is why I'm extremely pleased to introduce now Livia Lazzari, designer and marketing strategist. Good morning to you all. I'm here to take you through a wild journey to imperfect beauty, and tell you also about Voodoo jewels. I'm going to tell you what choices are to be made when a brand wants to have a say, basing their strategies on branding and marketing together. First of all, let's make a tradition great again. So what I would suggest is that we started from traditional techniques from our heritage, looking at it with a different eye, merging together tradition, innovation, design, and fashion. We should try and come up with a product for our client which looks familiar, but which which also include visionary elements. As a matter of fact, the only way we have today to come up with something new is to use things that look completely different, merging them together so as to create something new, so that products are brought up to a new level. What is essential nowadays for a brand is to have a story to tell. Storytelling, indeed, is the way forward. It has power. It is the way we can communicate and share that value. Storytelling is the narrative element through which we can take our clients in our dreamlike world. And this journey starts from naming, first and foremost. Voodoo jewels, as a matter of fact, makes you think immediately to tribal atmospheres that are the inspiration of these jewels and the magic qualities that they want to attach to these jewels. Communication and storytelling becomes all important because we cannot afford to develop a project or a brand with no message inside. Indeed, the world we live in, the market we live in, is saturated, and the only way we can make a difference is by combining ethics to aesthetics. Our world is drifting away. Our cities runs being on fire because of ChatGPT and all the computer that may start fires. This is why industries and productive processes should aim at bringing to the market some products that are connected to a positive statement. Create locally and design globally, which is synonymous with Livia, Lazzari, you have an wonderful talent. You're fantastic. Let me help you. You talked about storytelling. You talked about perfection. We've been talking about the digital world, and then we should also talk about imperfect creatures. In imperfection, there is perfection. Tell us about your world. Tell us about the strength you have created. As an example of a designer who is wonderfully strong online, those like you can really transfer important values, convey important values, such as that of sustainability, inclusivity, and so on and so forth. So we followed a quite spontaneous journey, developing craftsmanship led us to be imperfect. Imperfection cannot just be looked at considering the product. It includes a wider vision. Indeed, it goes through self-acceptance and self-expression as a tool. Perfection is an ambition that we've been, in a way, trained to be subject to. Imperfection is extremely helpful in telling the world who we are, because we do not have to obey any rules. We can only obey the rules that we feel ourselves. Our brand should be consistent with the message we convey on the market, and our rationale, our philosophy should be apparent through any of the steps we take. In, for example, also looking at the models we choose for our campaigns. There are indeed a number of projects that are very important in street casting processes, so that anybody can be and act as a model, doing away with strict models, but making creativity something of an extraordinary nature. A brand which is trying to focus on explaining to the end consumer that what is important is self-expression, and styling can become an important way to communicate, not just through the choice of clothes, but all jewels can be worn together, and this is something that we can tell our consumers. Styling is a tool for communication. So basically, we tell the rest of the world who we are, but styling can become some kind of contemporary armor, protecting us from all what may bear on us and constrain us. We should push on the fact that basically consumers could come back to us following a circular path of a client, a customer who decided to show allegiance to brands such as ours, feel completely joined together with the brand, and immersive experiences are necessary for that. So basically, the time of sales and purchase is not something that of just a transaction. It is some kind of ceremony to us. It is a ceremony that makes us think about our holy, a sacred journey where a customer of ours joins our community. Now, going back to the experience of Voodoo jewels, And clients are sometimes offered a tattoo when they purchase some object, so as to basically link the consumer to the brand. This is a strategy promoting consistency, and Voodoo is basically the tribal element that links the end consumer to our brand. Another way to make the consumer loyal to our brand is offering them the possibility to customize any jewel. This will include the consumer or the client into the design process, making the object that he or she buys is unique and custom-made. New technologies enable us to use virtual reality so that consumers are brought into imaginary worlds that are designed for the customer, making the customer totally free of in a way to express themselves, sharing their identity.
Disegnare e di creare una comunità in cui il consumatore si senta parte integrante sono fondamentali le collaborazioni. È molto importante trovare all'interno della scena creativa degli artisti, delle influencer o anche delle DJ con cui condividiamo i valori, col quale possiamo scambiarci le fan base. E attraverso delle collaborazioni, ma anche attraverso delle occasioni di sensibilizzazione e beneficenza, comunicare i nostri valori, ma soprattutto insieme, collettivamente, la comunità diventa più forte e consapevole. Quindi il brand diventa portatore di un messaggio positivo.
Bene, bene. Grazie mille Livia Lazzari in questo gioiello come narrazione che diventa uno storyteller ed una comunicazione insieme. Andiamo avanti, continuiamo il nostro percorso, il nostro viaggio assieme. Arriviamo al capitolo 5. Strategia. Svelare il futuro. Mentre entriamo nel futuro, i confini tra arte, tecnologia e antropologia si fondono, si confondono. Bene, sostenibilità, innovazione, inclusività. Bene, queste tre cose assieme plasmeranno le narrazioni di domani. Insieme dobbiamo decodificare i fenomeni emergenti, osservare i modelli storici, tracciare una strada verso il futuro. Bene, quindi con immenso piacere chiamo sul palcoscenico Paola De Luca, direttore creativo e fondatrice di Trendvision.
Buongiorno, good morning, and thank you for being here once again. I am so honored today. I'm like blown away by these people, honestly. And welcome to our world, Trendvision world, and my world, the world that I love. So much knowledge, so much passion, so much poetry, sensitivity. This morning we had 4 different people, 4 different profiles completely, from history to innovation, technology, to poetry in motion, I would define Richard Wu, and to, of course, wonderful Livia Lazzari, which shows young millennial and Gen Z being very strong in digital online, and then being sensitive and wonderful in front of you people, while she's a lioness digitally and really like teaching us how to really do marketing online. So welcome to this morning session. And it's really what I wanted to share with you what Trendvision is about, what trend forecasting is about. It's about knowledge. It's about studying cycle in histories. It's really going from Amanda Triossi, maestra in history, historian, that she kind of took us in a journey from the Renaissance until today when we talk about men's jewelry and fluidity. We think that everything is new, that there is the truth is, how can we identify the future if you don't know anything about the past. There are cyclical times where things happen for some reasons. And it is not a coincidence that she mentioned something very interesting when she said the age of enlightenment. And the age of enlightenment, going from the 17th to the 18th century, was really promoting reasons, freedom, and new civil rights. Isn't it what we are facing right now? Isn't it the scenarios that we're facing in terms of geopolitical turmoil, revolution in terms of artificial intelligence and new technology? And that's when Damiano mentioned technology is art. Technology is art. Because the reason why we are also here is because thanks to technology. And furthermore, I really loved Richard sharing this element of cultural osmosis and talking about his life. And I almost cried when hearing about, art and the void and the empty space. And he really, brought spirituality and an holistic approach to jewelry making here, creating a time capsule moment, creating some kind of metaphysical bubble that I felt. And then I went down, again, I went back to digital world and Livia, which actually kind of freezing for a moment showed a real beautiful human side of what she really, translated into the Voodoo jewels journey. And I love when she, and this is what I really wanted to bring to the table when she started talking about super styling, which we define super styling, an evolution, an extension of self-expression. And how self-expression is enabling to create circular purchases, to create a community, to create event, and also the importance of collaboration. That could be with an influencers. I have all the influencers here in the front. Caterina is here, and thank you, Caterina, for coming. Caterina Perez. So together with other people. So collaborations are keys nowadays for companies, manufacturers, to collab and partner with a designer and create capsule collections, or with an influencer, or with someone, because together we are powerful. I am empowered by them. My wealth, it's not me, my wealth is the people around, because together we co-create the present and future of the jewelry industry. And this is my love, and this is my passion, and that I share with all of you. I'm sure that's why you're here. And I thank you for being here. But today, we went from, I really was a student like you, and that's why I love to be there. And I would stay here for the rest of the day listening to these people or people like them. And because I am hungry for knowledge, even though I'm Gen Xers, even though I'm in my 50s, because I'm hungry for passion. And this is the reason why I wake up every morning, because I can't stop learning, listening, and feeling the emotion. I want it to be an immersive experience, and that's what I hope you're receiving. And today, thank you. But let's really get going into work. So strategy in 5 steps, because it is our duty, it is my role, it's our role to say, first of all, history. What did we learn today? What we are picking up today from this morning workshop? It is about history, innovation, sustainability, technology. Everything is interconnected. And us, as leader, is our role and responsibility to look beyond this present moment, to look beyond the surface, and to deepen our knowledge and fuel our imagination. I have to do it every day. How can I set a standard? How can I set an example? If we don't do it ourselves, to our class, to our colleagues, to our co-workers, to our employees. And then, so the number 1, reconnecting with our origin. From Amanda Triossi talking about, from the Renaissance, to Richard Wu talking about, Chinese heritage. But he went around the globe. He went from China to United States. He studied in Italy, in Milano with the Buccellati people. Then he went to Florence to go back to Shenzhen and then back here. And he won the award at Couture with Veil, the last piece that he showed at the Couture show in Las Vegas in 2024. And what I love about Richard, it's very humble. It's very humble. It's a prince, the way he talks about his work, the way he talks about history, the way he talks about the craft that he loves. It's so natural. He talked about, you know, spirituality and craftsmanship in a way that was like a dancer. And we are like, why heritage? Because going back to our roots, and that's why we connected the concept of self-adornment. It's through a portrait. It's through the way we look. It's through a selfie that we really talk about who we are, who we want to be, or who we want to aspire to be. And Amanda, when she talked about the male figure in nature being the most colorful, that's what we have to do. Go back to it, to the roots. But really, what does it do with our business? How do we really can treasure all this information, business implication, use heritage and storytelling as foundation to differentiate in competitive market? How can you be strong in a different market? By going back to your roots, work like Richard and many other companies are doing, but really that's what we have to do. Global and yet local, like Livia was saying. Incorporate narrative, highlight cultural symbolism and craftsmanship. And let's speed up because my time is up soon. Embrace fluidity and inclusivity, which is not just only gender fluidity, but age, culture, diversity. And let's go into business implication. Shift focus from creating rigid categories of jewelry and think modular design. Livia was talking about this, creating a community and kind of a loyal relationship with the customer by creating collections that they are forcing or inspiring the consumer to come back and buy from you. Make a pop-up event or event a ritual for gather with your community. And furthermore, highlight inclusivity in advertising, product offering. Advertising, still many campaigns, they look alike. Too many only Caucasian, too only perfect women or not even men yet. Let's become diverse. Oliviero Toscani, which unfortunately passed away a few days ago, an important art director Italian, which created United Colors of Benetton. It was like 30 years ago. Everybody from different parts of the world, Chinese, black, purple, white. It's about humanity. Let's see that in our advertising campaign, because diversity is an opportunity. And let's, number 3, leverage technology. Technology opens infinite possibility for creativity and personalization. Using technology to amplify, not overshadow humanity. AI, it's augmented imagination. Is augmented vision, is augmented creativity. Like Damiano was saying, additive manufacturing is helping creativity to bring lightness or to enhance creativity with technology. Every time we saw amazing new design, it was only because of the evolution of technology. Technology is art, and art is technology. Business implications include invest in education. Technology means if we don't understand the technology, let's study, okay? That's what we have to do. And let's combine traditional craftsmanship with a cutting-edge innovation technology. Number 4, position jewelry and investment as and storytelling. Sorry, because my voice is going away, but it's coming back in a moment. And in a moment where gold is $27 per ounce, gold and jewelry are back in being an investment. jewelry are like valuable, and especially in old jewels, you know, collectors are really buying it also because of the value. So the business implication position jewelry as both cultural artifacts, but also as a financial asset, also in marketing campaign, and collaborate with designers and artists, like we were saying, to really take your jewelry, your collection, your vision to the next level and attract new clients. 5, reimagine storytelling in the AI era. We are in the era of imagination, augmented imagination, meaningful connection through the imperfection, but also through the dreamscape reality of jewelry and communication. Storytelling is key. If we are unable to create new narrative, we cannot communicate with modern consumer. Business implication, use AI to enhance product personalization and engage audiences. Experiment with virtual and augmented reality to deepen consumer experience. At the end, shaping the future of jewelry and luxury. We are ready to really face great change. And this is a cultural economic shift. What does it mean? The jewelry industry must embrace the new role of change, because what seems trembling, it's really a great opportunity. And now I'd like very much to open the floor and co-create the future. And I'd like very much, you know, our friend to ask questions, open the floor for questions, if you have any, and we can just have a little, you know, conversation corner after this inspirational segment by these amazing speakers. Grazie. Any questions? Okay, question, okay, microphone, thank you. Please introduce yourself, grazie.
Hello, everybody. David Bruff, a journalist with Jewellery Outlook magazine. Gold prices surged by over 25% last year in calendar 2024 and have started very strongly this year in 2025. Gold is becoming extremely expensive for jewellery consumers now. So a question for all of the panel. This surge in the gold price and the great volatility we're seeing, how is it affecting the psychology of the jewellery consumer, the way the jewellery consumer looks at gold jewellery and thinks about it? And a second question for Damiano. Thank you very much, Damiano, for your references to purities of gold. I was just wondering what impact in your market segments this surge in the gold price is having. Are you seeing increasing demand for lower purities of gold jewellery?
Damiano, you start, and then
I start with
eventually we answer it.
The first one is
Amanda
for my colleagues more than me.
Yeah.
About the second one, how is impacting the manufacturing segment? So what is happening in the production? So the gold price is mainly impacting on the money that are necessary to make the same amount of jewelry. So I was talking about the production processes using for making jewelry. But one of that I was missing, because I didn't want to go too deep, is something that is called CNC machining, which is quite famous today, but is very gold consuming. So the amount of gold needed to make a piece of jewelry is very often 10 times higher than the weight of the final pieces. And the high price of gold is impacting that way. Generally, and this I close my answer with a question that I want to give to every one of you. So we are thinking about gold price rising. But if I go back just 100 years and see that white gold was just invented to copy platinum, to imitate platinum. And today, the fake platinum is double expensive than the original one. So why don't we looking for opportunities somewhere else instead really thinking that gold is rising. Of course, is something happening. Whatever is happening in terms of what is produced, so reducing fineness is something on my, experience, something that happened temporarily, because then changing the culture of, of what is the habit on purchasing jewelry by, a country, people living in one country, takes more than 1 year. That is the rally that gold price is doing.
Thank you for your answer, Damiano. And then while someone is preparing the next question, David, I'd like to just link to what Damiano said. Yes, gold prices is impacting in design. Let's talk about design and then, of course, also consumer. Design is certainly impacted. Designers and manufacturers are impacted by the gold price, and not necessarily in the high end, in the highest segment, but in the middle segment. It's not a coincidence that designer and manufacturer nowadays, they are also proposing in classical market like Italy, for instance, where usually we are producing in 18-karat gold. They are now also doing and embracing what in America or in England we're doing already, 14K and 9K. So that's one aspect, okay? So design is becoming, it's very interesting, it's very edgy. They're working on lightweight to use the gold, but also they lower the caratage. I feel that consumer nowadays, they are more interested in design than especially for that particular segment, rather than the caratage. Not, like I said before, in the high segment. In the high segment, they want 18 karat, they want, the top gems and the top diamonds. But at the same time, connecting to Damiano, titanium, it's something that we've been using now lately. I mean, it's been a while. Aluminum and also carbon fiber. And I love what Richard was saying. Is basically experimenting as an artist, designer with new material, also thinking of time. He was talking about an oxidated piece 100 years from now, how we would look. So when you have designer with this awareness of time and how they want to stay in history, it's pretty scary and impressive, honestly. But I would say that in times of crisis, the best creative results are coming out. That's my answer. Yes.
Hi there, my name is Manon Crespi. I am from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a social media influencer. I call myself the accidental influencer because with my hair, it just happened over the last several years. But my question for you, Paola, is when I first got into the jewelry industry several years ago, I would meet with independent designers, and they were like the rock stars or the celebrities, and they would design for themselves, not for the customer. And it was almost like the designer was imposing themselves onto the consumer. I see the whole thing has flipped, obviously. Now the designer is taking into consideration its consumer and wanting to bring the collaboration and the humanity. At what point do you think that happened over the last 20 years? Would you say it's because of technology?
Well, the truth is it goes together, Manon. I mean, and I'd like also Amanda, because she's an historian, she might be more punctual than me in answering. Just my knowledge, my experience, and my instinct tells you that, with definitely the year 2000, with the era of digital era, the world, the globalization, we had globalization, and we kind of everything got more distributed. We are facing, since the last decade, a big civil rights movement, from women to gay people to racial tension back, and definitely the new generation, the natives, okay, they are breaking the rules. It's about them. It's about, I think it's like, I want to take Livia in a good way. She's the youngest on the stage, She's very powerful with medias, but when she is in front of people, even though she's an amazing, she's even a professor, she was very sensitive in a way that they are very sensitive. She's a young millennial closer to Gen Z. And they're very sensitive, and I think they really want to express themselves in a different way. So the streets are dictating. This, as a forecaster, as a professional forecaster, I always said trends don't happen here. I'm sorry, I give you bad news. Trends, they are not at the shows, nor with the designers. No, it's true. Trends are on the street. Trends start in the ghettos. It's like hip hop started in the ghettos. And it's the way they dress and the way they impact it. The music industry, the underground culture is really what impacts our world and not vice versa. You want to look like a rock and roll star or a hip hop or whatever. You don't want to look like a jeweler. A jeweler is boring. It's true, isn't it? Isn't it? Really? I mean, it's like, and the point is, it's all about expressing yourself. So we are in an era where Amanda anticipated, she was talking about the age of enlightenment. This is a new age of enlightenment, and it's parallel with a new era in technology, which is completely opening the horizon. And now men finally are wearing jewelry again, and they're fine with that. It doesn't matter. And you can have silver hair and be gorgeous. And this is amazing. So when we're talking about fluidity, it's not just about the gender norm, it's about aging. Women can age, and we look great, and we are happy, and we can remarry at 60, and it's okay. Okay? So that's it. Does it answer you? Yes, sir. Michael, then there is the gentleman in the back after L. Hill. Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Elle Hill. I'm the founder and CEO of Hill & Company, growth strategist for the jewelry, diamond, and gemstone industry. Paola, first, my God, this is an amazing juxtaposition of 4 different speakers with 4 different perspectives. It was particularly inspiring, Amanda, to hear about understanding where you fit in the larger timeline of our industry. And juxtaposing that against Livia, I wanted to pose a question to you, because authenticity is everything and storytelling is everything. But the vehicles, the highways upon which we tell stories have changed so quickly. I don't think our industry caught up with it. And I wanted to ask you about how you consistently and via what methods you market and you convey that story about your authenticity in the greater context of this world of jewelry and creativity.
Rispondo in italiano.
You can answer in Italian. They will translate. Do you have headsets?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Sì, Livia.
Allora, io credo che è vero, il mondo.
Well, the world is changing very, very quickly. And often, I believe that I've already lost my shine in communication. Well, I believe that the world of jewelry consists of an enormous portfolio of many sectors. I belong to the fashion world, not to the jewelry world. Therefore, I have to change. Every 6 months, I have to change my strategies of communication, the topics I deal with. But apart from this, and notwithstanding all this, the message is there because it goes beyond trends. You change your communication tools, but the message does not change because it is much deeper than a trend. It is something that has the very deep ambition of doing good to society. So communication tools will change, but the message will not change. It will always be the same. Thank you, Livia.
Because we have 5 minutes to go, so 3 more questions, very quick. No, there is the gentleman for there before. Yeah, I saw him. Come on, microfono, veloce, per favore, in alto, a destra.
Up there on the right, thank you. Please bring the microphone quickly. Then the lady on the left, and then we shall conclude. Thank you.
Based in London. What you beautifully described, you know, this cultural shift, this inclusion, this diversity, it's embraced already by fashion, by beauty, in any kind.
Yeah.
Why jewelry is so resistant? Why? What are the roadblocks? We spoke yesterday in another chat about how traditional is the jewelry industry in terms of structure. It's a family-owned company where the board is basically made by people over 50. What are, according to you, the reason of this resistance to change?
Luca, vero?
Sì.
Luca, ciao Luca, good morning. But listen, it's like, I think that the change is happening, Luca, even though, like you said, traditionally speaking, the jewelry industry, it is traditional because of all the reasons that you mentioned. You know, first of all, even though there are people, first of all, I'm over 50. Just to let you know. I don't feel I'm that old and I don't feel I'm old-fashioned, but no, because it becomes, you see, this is where the lack of fluidity comes in, you know. There is people in their, 30s that they're old and there are people in their 70s that they're not. So the point is not the management or the family, but it could definitely, traditionally speaking, because usually they come from, usually the business is inherited, there are the indie designers, meaning, Livia, Richard. So there is a new way of designer, maybe even you, which are innovator. And then there is, the manufacturers and at times buyers, which are behind the consumer. So it's a time, and it will always be. I mean, in a way, the reason why the jewelry industry, it is so strong still in many, it will be forever, is because of their tradition, therefore the heritage. We were talking with Richard, but with many of us, that we are losing the new generation in stone setting, in being in the bench. I mean, we need to rethink the whole industry. And this is why we do this, to have this kind of conversation, hoping to trigger change. This is just a seed, but every seed may become something else. And the truth is there are people that they are not coming from the jewelry industry, they're not even coming to the shows. They're just online, or they're doing pop-up shows, or they are presenting their collection, and they're breaking the rules, and they're breaking the semantic of communication, like Livia, and also the way they design. And so it's happening, Luca, the change. But the change, it's happening, it's like, going up and down. It's like a little bit of, salt and a little bit of sugar. It's like, and so it's traditional, maybe for the good reasons. And at the same time, there is a let's say, re-evolution of the industry. So I believe change is happening, but it's not as, if you walk, I think that even Vicenza Fair completely changed, because the repositioning of the shows, they have to think about content, they have to think about layout, they have to think about customer experience. And then there are also fragmentation of shows. Next week there is something in Paris, and that we are happy to join Precious Room. There are pop-up shows for just designers, which are niche. So the world is changing, but it's not as, impactful, like, people think, men are wearing jewelry, it's something new. No, speak with Amanda Triossi, she's going to talk for 2 weeks on that, So that's an answer. Next. Grazie. Sì, è veloce perché abbiamo sforato. Esther.
Okay.
Sì, Esther.
Hi,
Presentati.
my name is Esther Lichtart. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a jewelry writer and I have a blog called bizida.com for 11 years. I also coach small business entrepreneurs in the jewelry industry. And so there was a lot of talk about storytelling, and I love storytelling, but my clients often experience the problem of where to start their own story and how to merge it with the story of the client, because you can come up with a great story of your product, but it has to marry and become, like you say, co-creation with the story of the client. So anyone who wants to pick up this question, how does a company start with storytelling and do it well?
I will, you want to answer this, Livia? I'll do this quick, just because we have 2 more questions and we have to close the floor. I think Leicester is is the thinking that has to be changed. I mean, in the past we had, like you said, first you have product and then you come up with the idea. Or some people have the idea and then they don't have the product. The truth of the matter is, like, you can't fake it. You cannot just do a product and make it up. It's the whole thing, it's a cultural shift that has been happening, and that's why, that's the reason why people like Livia and others are better storytellers. Because when they talk about fashion, fashion is really self-expression. It's not about clothing. Today, jewelry are fashion. Styling is, the key word is about styling. But even more, and then I look at my, the queen of sustainability, Iris van der Wieken, and I think about, the jeweler, the young generation, when they want to look good, but they want to talk about, local community and supporting. They want to talk about sustainability. So has to be coherent. It cannot just made up last minute. So if you're faking it, it's difficult to create a story. But if you have a clear philosophy and you create and think that way, it's natural. It's just real. So maybe we need to do a cultural shifting from just making or just thinking or just creating. It has to happen together. It's called being inclusive. Va bene? Perfetto. Next, one more and then we have to go. I'm sorry. Veloce il microfono, ragazze, veloce.
Please, I'm sorry,
But there were people there. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that, quick. And I'm sorry because we have two more, and that's it. I'm sorry. We would love to have more time, but first of all, we don't want to bore you to keep you on the chairs for too long. And we rather you say, oh my God, I wish it lasts longer. It's marketing. It's all marketing.
Paola.
Dimmi, dove
Paola,
sei?
Hi. Iris, Executive Director, Watch and Journalship 2030, co-founded by Maison Cartier and Kering. When we talk about jewelry, we talk about beauty and we talk about stories, like Esther said. Now, behind the stories, we need responsible value chains, a very complex topic. And I agree with Luca, the times have changed and we know consumers want it. We know that talent wants to work for companies that drive those values. But can beautiful pieces be created circular? Question mark. And do you believe circularity will become a new artistic model for the future for jewelry?
Yes, Iris. Yes, it is. And it's already happening, from vintage jewelry to circular design to circular purposes. I am honored to teach at school, including Livia, and I can tell you that most student and youngster, their main focus is about sustainability, circular design, and so on. I think that we, as you know, thanks to your great work and effort of your foundation and team, you are doing an amazing job. At the same time, I think also smaller companies, they should be more acquainted with that. And we talked about this in the past many times, but at the same time, I think that consumer should be more aware of what we are doing and what should be done. So I think that going forward, maybe even the way I don't like the word selling in this part, but we promote, the sustainability factor has to be part of the storytelling, like Livia was saying, and that's why we cannot fake it. You can't just do it at the last minute. It has to be embraced at the beginning of the creative concept. I hope he answered.
Just one comment in this audience, that all of us have to be aware with all the regulations that are coming, it's all about product. So it means you can make a claim on your narrative. You need to know exactly what is inside the product, where it's coming from, what the positive and the negative impact is. So this is a major shift for the industry. And I'm really asking everyone to start in that journey, because otherwise we can't protect the integrity of the industry as a collective.
This is an alert. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Alert, alert. Very important. No, I have to close the floor. I'm sorry. We are honored. The last one, because otherwise they go.
Last one for Damiano, very short.
Grazie.
Okay?
Sì,
Okay?
Damiano.
You allow me? Thank you very much. Jesse Malicki from Poland, representative of Progold. Damiano, one question to you. as you clearly indicated, only nanotechnology, nanoparticles technology is comparable with last wax casting. My question is, one day, this technology will kill thousands years last wax casting, or both technologies can develop parallel?
Definitely it will not kill. It will be complementary. I do not believe that we are in front of something that is going to substitute, because it will be one more tool. That's why it will define a new frontier of the freedom. In the past, technology was a kind of bottleneck for creativity. So today, the nanoparticle, jetting, whatever additive manufacturing technology is not going to replace investment casting process, because there are some specific segments where that technology is still the one that makes sense. So, in fact, it's another tool, not the tool.
Grazie, Damiano. And now just to say one thing, we're very proud to be here, and we're going to be around the globe. We're going to be on January 29th in Paris at a Precious Room. Thank you, Muriel, for having us. And then we're going to be next in Hong Kong, once again with Richard Wu, and then in Singapore. But let me say an important thing, and let me thank Fabrizio Raggi, which actor and storyteller, which today he made my life easier, and finally we felt, to live an experience. And I thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the stage with me and with us. It's an honor. Grazie, Fabrizio Raggi.
Grazie a te, grazie a te. Bene, grazie mille.
Thank you, thank you. We've said that jewels are not just gemstones, but they are synonymous with civilization, humanity, the tribal objects and others can reflect our essence. And now, going on with this journey, we should always consider that each part of an adornment includes part of our heritage, of our history. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to Amanda Triossi. Thank you to Damiano Zito. Thank you to Richard Wu. Thank you to Livia Lazzari. Thank you to Paola De Luca. Thank you all for being with us. Have a good day. Have a good experience at the trade fair. Thank you.